Hello and welcome to Time About the Movies Flashback. Today we're flashing back to February 25th, 1988, with 6 movies to look at, so we've got a lot to get to. Let's just jump on a new one. We'll start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, and that is Harrison Ford in Roman Polanski's Frantic.
I'm an American and I am crazy.
I mean, that line's probably the best way to describe Americans today. I'm an American and I am crazy, even though they won't admit it. That's a great line, and like I said, it holds up to today's standards. But continuing on.
Rex Reed of At the Movies calls Frantic a thriller that keeps you on the edge of your seat. Siskel and Ebert in the movies give it 2 thumbs up. Mike Clark of USA Today gives it 4 stars. Harrison Ford's performance is a great one. And Pat Collins of WWOR-TV says, Harrison Ford is the ultimate hero. Frantic, rated R. Now playing, check newspapers.
So Frantic stars Harrison Ford as a doctor with his wife going to Paris for a medical conference, and while showering, his wife disappears. His lack of language and the odd way she disappears makes it nearly impossible for him to find any official help in his search as he enters the punk drug culture to find out what has happened to her. And for Roman Polanski, he needed this after Pirates was a massive flop for him with Walter Matthau a couple years after this, I should say. No, a couple years prior to this. No, 1986. But that film was a massive flop, so he needed this to really show that, you know, like, he still got it. And it's a pretty good film overall. It wasn't like a big hit at the box office, but it's a film that has gained a cult following over the years, and rightfully so, because it's a very cool, stylistic neo-noir mystery thriller with Harrison Ford giving a really good performance, Emmanuel Siegner playing this woman that he works with to find his wife, and John Mahoney's also in here too, giving a very good performance. It's a very tense film, some good writing overall, with Robert Towne also co-writing the script for this. Just a really good film in general. A tension-filled movie, keeps you on the edge of your seat. You have no idea where it's going to take you, what's going to happen next, and it's just a really, really solid film all the way through. It's a film that unfortunately did not get the proper respect it deserved back then, but it has gotten the respect it deserves now, and I'm really glad to see that, because the movie really is really damn good, and I do recommend checking it out. It's probably one of Polanski's more underrated movies in general, but it's a film that really is something that definitely deserves to be seen. I do recommend it, Frantic. So, that's Frantic. On with the next movie, the comedy, A Night in the Life of Jimmy Reardon.
Little Phoenix is Jimmy Reardon. Excuse me? He's charming, lovable, and irresistible.
I'm desperate.
But Jimmy is not interested in just anyone. He wants Lisa.
I hate you.
It's going to be a long night.
You love me? You make me want to vomit.
Are you gonna be alright?
Don't worry.
Don't worry.
A Night in the Life of Jimmy Reardon. Rated R. Starts Friday. Theaters everywhere.
And no, this is not relationships to Jim Reardon, who is, of course, the guy behind The Simpsons. He also works for Disney on stuff like Wreck-It Ralph. But no, I thought that this was something similar to that, but no. Obviously it wouldn't be, because nobody would have really known who Jimmy Reardon is. But A Night in the Life of Jimmy Reardon, you have a story where you have a wealthy Chicago suburb during the early 1960s, where a middle-class kid named Jimmy Reardon, played by River Phoenix, hangs out with his upper-class best friend Fred Roberts, who is played by Matthew Perry in his feature film debut, and sleeps with Fred's snobby girlfriend, played by Ione Skye. He spends his time writing poetry and drinking coffee, while he decides what he wants to do after high school. His parents won't help him pay for tuition unless he attends the same business college as his father did, but Jimmy doesn't want to follow that path. Instead, he focuses on coming up with enough money for a plane ticket to go to Hawaii with his wealthy yet chastised girlfriend Lisa Bentwright, played by Meredith Salinger. On the night of a big party, Jimmy is given the task of driving home his mother's divorced friend, played by Ann Magnuson, who conveniently seduces him, because that was apparently the norm in the 1980s. Since he is late picking up Lisa, she goes to the dance with the rich Matthew Hollander. Instead, Jimmy crashes the family car, then shares a rapprochement with his father. Chaos and hilarity ensue. And this is one of those movies where you either have to be in the right mood to really appreciate the absurdity of it, because it is an absurd movie, but there were a lot of movies like this that were so absurd, but you just go along with the ride. License to Drive is a perfect example of that. And this is a film that, excuse me, it's a film that makes me burp like that. Sorry. But this is a film that is kind of like License to Drive, but not to the point where I would say I'd recommend it as something that you should watch multiple times. This is a film that has its brief moments here and there, River Phoenix, I think, really is the highlight of the film, showing what he could do as an actor of his career that unfortunately was cut short at the prime of his career. And, you know, just a fun film overall. Like, an overall enjoyable film in general. There are a lot of things about it that don't really mesh together all that well. Some of the humor doesn't really last as long as it doesn't really work nowadays as it did back then, but it's fine for what it is. I mean, like I said, it's no License to Drive, which I think is one of those so bad it's good type of movies that you just go along with the ride for, or something like an Adventures in Babysitting type of situation. Like I said, not a great film overall, but a fun film overall. A film that I would say I'm glad I did get to see, because it is worth it when it's over and done with. So that is A Night in the Life of Jimmy Reardon. On to the next movie, and that is another fun movie, but much better than Jimmy Reardon. John Waters' Hairspray.
Sonny Bono, Ruth Brown, Devon, Michael St. Gerard, Debbie Harry, Ricky Lake, Jerry Stiller, and Sean Thompson. The new comedy from John Waters. It's way beyond Grease. Hairspray.
Certainly a much different film from John Waters than what he had done before this. This was actually probably his most heinous film he had done up to this point, because he was mostly known for doing like X-rated movies by the MPAA, but this is a PG-rated film, the least restrictive rating he's ever received. And you have a story here set in 1962 Baltimore, Maryland, which revolves around a self-proclaimed, pleasantly plump teenager, Tracy Turnblad, played by Ricky Lake. She pursues stardom as a dancer at a local TV show and rallies against racial segregation. And this was, of course, made into a Broadway musical about 15 years later, and then eventually that musical was made into a movie remake in 2007, which was a very good film in general here. And This is one that's just as good. The cast overall is great. You have Sonny Bono, Ruth Brown, Divine, Deborah Harry, Jerry Stiller, Pia Zadora, Ricky Lake in her film debut, which is really, really damn good. It shows you what she can do as an actress in general. The film overall is really good, and this is what New Line was best at doing, taking these projects that were very much, seemed like big gambles at the time, especially with a director like John Waters, who had never done anything mainstream like this. But he proves that he does it very well, and it is a film that really is really enjoyable. It's a film that is very engaging, has a lot of great elements to it. The look of the film is very stylish and cool. It definitely fits into John Waters' style, but never feels like a film that is completely outside of the realm of ridiculousness. It feels like it's right at home where it should be at, and it's a really good film. It's it's probably one of the stronger versions of the story, even though, like I said, the 2007 version is great, and even the one they did for NBC a couple of years after the remake of the film, I thought worked very well. And but this is definitely worth a watch. If you've seen the original the remake of Hairspray and the NBC version, you obviously need to see the original one if you haven't seen it already, because it is indeed worth it in the end. So that is Hairspray. Let's move on to the next movie, and that is Jean-Claude Van Damme making his feature film debut in Bloodsport.
The Kumite, the world's ultimate competition. The true story of a contest so deadly it must be held in total secrecy. Now, one American has come to this hidden location to win the toughest battle of hand-to-hand full-contact karate. Martial arts sensation Jean-Claude Van Damme fights to be world champion in Bloodsport, rated R.
Starts Friday at select theaters.
Oh, I beg your pardon. It's Jean-Claude Van Damme. I guess that was the name that everyone was calling him before he eventually changed his name, but to what we know him as. But Jean-Claude Van Damme stars in this movie as Frank Dux, a United States Army captain and ninjutsu practitioner who competes in an underground full-contact martial arts tournament called the Kumite in Hong Kong. Based on Dux's real-life claims, the film was marketed as a true story, and it was one of Van Damme's first leading roles and showcased his abilities, launching his career as a major action star. Also in here, you have Forrest Whitaker, Donald Gibb, Leah Aries. It's probably one of Cannon Films' most successful movies, and one of the better films in general, because it's not like a typical Cannon movie where you feel like it's made clearly on the cheap and doesn't feel like the effort is being put in there. When you watch this, the effort is clearly being put in there, and it makes for some very entertaining action overall. The film is very intense. It's a very engaging film, and Jean-Claude Van Damme shows a lot of perseverance and shows what you can do as what he can do as an actor in general, and I think it works very well to his advantage. And of course, it has the memeable moment of him with the blood dripping out of his nose, with his face like like that. I mean, that's just. It's a really fun movie in general. It's a film that works a lot on a number of different levels. Even if you're somebody that's not into mixed martial arts overall, you can still find a lot of things about it to really get the enjoyment factor out of it. And like I said, it doesn't feel like a Canon Films movie. It's probably one of the more straight-line Canon Films films that actually does work. But that is a Bloodsport. Not much more to say about that one. So on to the next movie, and that is Aloha Summer.
And romance. And if you're lucky, you'll have one like this to look back on.
Well, what the hell did you do?
What didn't we do? Aloha Summer.
From the director of it and Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. Definitely doesn't feel like one of those movies. You have a story that takes place in 1959 where American teenagers travel from the contiguous United States to Hawaii with his parents to vacation and meet 5 other teenagers. The film follows the teenagers as they learn about surfing, drinking, sex, and friendship. That's pretty much all I know about this one. I've never seen it, but Don Michael Paul's in here. Tia Carrera from Wayne's World's in here. That's all I know about it, so can't really say too much more about that one. Very quick review on that one. So let's go ahead and move on to the last movie, and that is Pierce Brosnan and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade's Allison Doody in Taffin.
Pierce Brosnan is Taffin. You're dead. He didn't get mad. He got even.
Pierce Brosnan stars as an Irish tough guy debt collector who's asked by his local community to help with the town of developers bent on building a chemical plant on the outskirts of town. The developers are ruthless and have sent their heavies into the town to keep the locals quiet. But let's be honest, we all know what the most memorable thing about this movie is, and that is this scene.
This town is none of your business.
As long as I'm living here, it is.
Then maybe you shouldn't be living here!
That moment right there is the most memorable thing about this whole movie. It's been the most memeable. It's made for the most viral joke videos. This one being my personal favorite, the content-aware scale version.
What goes on in this town is none of your business.
As long as I'm living here, it is.
Then maybe you shouldn't be living
Just the fact that he all of a sudden decides to turn into a lion while he's screaming, "You shouldn't be living here." But just that line reading alone, that's one of those great over-the-top line readings. Then maybe you shouldn't be living here. Like it'd be fine if it's just, like, there was actually a purpose to it, but it just kind of happens out of nowhere. Like, maybe you shouldn't be living here. Like it just, I don't know what the director was thinking, but hey, it made for a great moment that was an internet sensation for the longest period of time. And like I said, it's the one thing that people take from this movie. The rest of the film itself is pretty bland overall. It's nothing too engaging. It's nothing too exciting. The script overall is a real mess. It doesn't really show off the true acting potential of Pierce Brosnan, which he is a great actor when he needs to be, but this was when he was just making movies for the sake of just making movies off the success of Remington Steele. And hey, it led to one of the great memeable moments in internet history, so I guess there's that. So yeah, not much more to say about this one, Taffin. Well, this is an interesting situation that we have here. This is going to wrap up time about the movie's Flashback, but we could be looking at February 19th, 1988, but there was no new releases this week, at least according to Box Office Mojo there wasn't. So yeah, we get to skip a week. So let's go ahead and move on to the next time we meet. We'll take a look at the films of February 12th, 1988, which includes Shoot to Kill, Carl Weathers and Action Jackson, let's see, Satisfaction, School Days, Spike Lee directed the film, and I believe the Manchurian Candidate re-release in the original Manchurian Candidate, not the 2004 one, obviously. But yeah, that's interesting that we don't have a list of movies for the weekend of the 19th. So what do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 movies to look at next time around. So we'll look at the weekend of President's Day weekend 1988 next time around. But until then, thank you so much for watching. And if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page. Check out the previous episode. And also, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. So, with that said, I'm off. I'll see you guys next time. And until then, as always, take care.